Don't want to bass fish in the heat this summer? Well, let me tell you something. Night fishing may be for you. Let me show you some baits that will help you catch fish at night on any lake that you go to. Hey guys, Ryan here at Fish North Georgia, and it's starting to bleed into the summer here. Starting to get hotter. Fishing in the heat, it ain't for everybody. Some people don't like it. Some people like to not deal with the boat crowds, don't want to deal with the boat traffic and the other bass fishermen out there during the day. Well, maybe night fishing is good for you. Let me show you some baits that will help you catch fish at dark. Disclaimer with these, however, these are the ones that I like to throw. These are the colors that I like to throw. But at night, there's no rules to what it is. But I believe that these baits, in some form or fashion, are your most productive lures that you can throw to be successful in the heat of the summer. My first and favorite one to throw, that I will throw all night long if I can get the opportunity to do it, is a big Colorado blade black spinnerbait. All right, I absolutely love Colorado blade spinnerbaits, these black spinnerbaits and stuff. You can throw a black skirt on them, you can throw a white skirt on them, you can throw willow leaf spinnerbaits, whatever. The technique that I like to use with these big black spinnerbaits is the reason why I like to go with the blacks and reds, blacks and orange, blacks, blues, blacks and purples, stuff like that. You'll notice this big old grub that I have hanging off the back of it. This is a Fat Albert grub from Zoom. It's just a green pumpkin purple. I really like purple and I really like natural colors. Going back to what I was saying, if you like to throw white, if you like to throw shad colors, shad don't change color at night. Personally, I like to throw blacks of some form, whether it's black and red, black, blue, black, purple, black and chartreuse, whatever, it doesn't matter. That is my personal preference. If you have to throw something that's more shad imitating for you, that's your whites, your gizzard shad, threadfin style colors, chartreuse and whites, by all means do it. However, this is what I personally like to do. This is a 3/4 ounce black spinnerbait from Spot Sticker Baits. I got my own custom skirt that I had to replace right here that I put on myself. Got that Zoom single tail Fat Albert twin tail grub on the back. And the reason why I like these is because when I'm throwing a black spinnerbait, about 97% of the time, it is a bottom contact bait. I am slow rolling this on the bottom. I am throwing this on points, throwing this on reef poles, throwing this down some banks that the fish could pull up and down to feed with. Remember, the biggest key with fishing at night is understanding and noticing the feeding periods. The feeding periods are really important. There are some nights where they only feed once or twice during the night. There are some nights where they feed multiple times during the night. It's up to you on the specific date that you are out there fishing to figure out what the pattern is and what's going on with how they're feeding. And a black spinnerbait is one of those that can really allow you to cover a lot of water. You've got a lot of vibration with that blade. You have a good profile, and then you have that slow action of that single tail grub on the back that really draws in them to come up behind the bait and actually eat the bait. They will bite this thing one of two ways. They'll absolutely jerk the rod out of your hand, or all of a sudden this blade's down there just going thump, 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 real slow. You're reeling it like this, crawling along the bottom, making bottom contact, and all of a sudden you're like, dang, my blade quit turning. If your blade quits turning, set the hook. You got one. Promise you that. Black spinnerbait, my number one. Love to do it. I don't throw a trailer hook very much at night, unlike in during the day, because it seems like they just seem to get the bait better. Also, where I'm slow rolling these, real slow along the bottom, trailer hooks will tend to get hung up. So big, nice, meaty grub chunk right back here on the back, single tail grub. You can use a crawl top trailer if you want to as well. Just make sure you impart some kind of action on the back of this and give this a much fuller profile when it's going through the water. Black spinnerbaits, slow rolled on the bottom, 7-foot medium heavy rod, 15 to 17 pound fluorocarbon. Jerk the rod out of your hand, you might catch a big one. You never know. You might catch 30 in one night. All depends upon the situation. A little key about the black spinnerbait, wind helps a lot. It really helps to really get them to want to feed on this. Bait number 2 is a crankbait. This is a black and red glitter Norman Deep Little N. One of my favorite color crankbaits. It's got some hook rash on it from where I've thrown it. It's got some bill rash on it. I've caught a lot of fish on this bait. Absolutely love crankbaits that dive in the 10 to 12 foot range, because 10 to 12 feet of water roughly is the real good feeding period, and up shallow, that is the real good depth zone where they like to be in at during their feeding periods. Black and red, black and blue. You can even throw chartreuse colored ones, chartreuse bluebacks. There's no rules to the crankbait. Just remember that the main thing with the crankbait is it's making a lot of noise, it's making a lot of racket, and the biggest tip that I can tell you about having success with a crankbait after dark: maintain bottom contact. Beat the ever-living piss out of this thing. It's really, really fun bite. They will absolutely stop this thing, and they will absolutely throttle you, and you'll have an absolute blast catching big largemouth, big spotted bass on these plugs. You might even catch some striper or two, especially if you fish on some of the lakes that have landlocked impounded striper in them. Bait number 3, and it is another moving bait, but it is the last really moving bait that I like to throw. I have one more moving bait, but it is very specific to where I like to throw it, and that is a black buzzbait. A black buzzbait with some kind of double tail grub, a Kitech threaded onto the back. I really like the ones with some bigger blades. I really want a lot of commotion. I want a lot of drawing power to me with these baits. You can see right here with my black and blue profile right there with a little rainbow shad 3.3 Kitech on the back. This is coming through the water. It's making a lot of noise. We have a boot tail action. It really draws the fish in. Listen, takes a little bit of getting used to, and takes a little bit of practice, but throwing these as close to the bank as you can after dark will generate a lot of success, especially for those fish that pulled up to the rocks and are really cruising around down the banks and stuff like that, or they're looking for shad. One of my biggest tips that I can tell you: pick up the buzzbait and throw it where there may be light coming down into the water. Maybe off over here, there's a light pole around someone's property. Maybe you've got like a park that has some riprap around it that has some light poles, maybe back in around some marinas. Throw the buzzbait. You will get bit. Another quick tip about a buzzbait: just like the black spinnerbait, wind will help. Wind will help this bite significantly. 7-foot medium heavy rod. Going to go with about 15 to 17 pound fluorocarbon or copolymer line like P-Line CXX. Hey, can't go wrong with it. And it's always fun when you hear that big old whoosh and you have no idea where it's coming from, but all you know is then your rod starts to take off out of your hand. Really fun, gets you a really big bite. Really, you can really absolutely wear them out on a black buzzbait. Remember the paddle tail. And again, I do not throw a trailer hook after dark. They seem to get the bait. You're going to notice a little bit about that. Bait number 4. This works really, really well around lighted docks, anywhere where there's more light at and stuff, but it is actually becoming one of my favorites, and it is a staple up here throughout all winter and spring, so why not work during the summertime? This is a 3/8 ounce Guppy Head with a 2.8 white Kitech on the back of it. Throw this thing on a spinning rod, throw it around lights. Listen, we've all fished lights, those of us who have. You see the little bitty bait fish that's running around. You're emulating this exactly to what it is. Real finesse presentation. I promise you it works. They will come out from those lights and they will absolutely smoke this thing. 15-pound braid, 10-pound fluorocarbon leader. Throw it around lights. You can even throw this around bridges. You can throw this around some other docks that may not have lights on them, but as is. But let me tell you something. They feed on a lot of bait this size. A lot of this bait is very unsuspecting at night. Throw a little Guppy Head with a little 2.8 Kitech swimmer on the back and you will get bit. The last bait, and it's probably one of my most fun baits to throw that I have a lot of fun throwing it, is a big 10-inch ribbon tail worm. This one is from Bass Reaper Bait Company in Plum Apple. Texas rig style, okay? You can throw it on a jig head, but I like to put it on a Texas rig. A big 5/0 offset shank worm hook on here, a 1/4 ounce, 3/16 ounce bullet weight pegged, okay? Throw this around brush, throw this around in blowdowns, throw this on points, humps, whatever. There's really no rules to what you can do with this. My favorite place to throw this, however, out of everything, is deep, steep, bluff banks in the middle of the summer after dark. The fish like to pull up and down those steep bluff banks at dark to feed. This up there, you'll absolutely get hammered. They'll tote this thing off. You'll set the hook. Every single time just about that you get a bite on a big 10-inch ribbon tail worm, it is a keeper. It is definitely beyond a keeper. A lot of people shy away from these big 10-inch worms on spotted bass lakes like Lake Lanier. But let me tell you something. This spotted bass will absolutely hammer these things. They absolutely love them. If you don't really like the whole 10-inch profile, it is very simple to just bite some of it off. Then you have a much smaller profile. You have more ribbon tail action than you do profile. Downgrade the size of your hook to about a 4/0 hook. Go to work with it. Absolutely a fantastic bait to throw at night. I have a lot of success with plum apple. It is probably my favorite color. I also like the old Zoom grape color. June bug red works really, really well. And then when push comes to shove, why not go with just green pumpkin red or green pumpkin magic and in a Zoom old monster. Hard to beat anything like that. Guys, all these baits will work well for you. Put these baits in your arsenal. Go fishing at night. Have some success. Beat the heat, beat the crowds, and enjoy your time out there. Thanks again.